Okay, let's dive in. Imagine for a moment that something we use, well, constantly, our words might actually be far more powerful than we've ever really stopped to consider.
It's pretty compelling thought, isn't it?
Right. Not just as tools for, communicating thoughts, but maybe as active forces shaping the very fabric of our lives.
And that's the core idea in the source material we're exploring today.
Exactly. We're looking at excerpts from Florence Scovel Shinn's classic, Your Word is Your Wand.
Such a fascinating title. So, our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack Shinn's main argument from these texts
Which is?
that our words are essentially these vibrational forces, potent tools we can use to consciously mold our reality.
Right. And we'll look at how she argues this applies across different areas of life, drawing insights only from the excerpts we have.
Yeah, sticking just to what Shinn wrote in this material.
So the core premise she lays out
Mm.
is that your words aren't just commentary on your life.
They're creative instruments.
Exactly. Like a magician wielding a wand. She suggests you are, in a very real sense, using your words to kind of cast the mold for your experience.
And she explains the mechanism behind this too, doesn't she? Connecting it right to our inner world.
She does. She argues your words reflect, and maybe more importantly, they program your subconscious mind.
Ah, the subconscious. She talks about it like it's this incredibly fertile ground, right? Uses that analogy.
Yes, explicitly. She describes words as the seeds you plant in that subconscious ground.
So whatever seeds you plant, that's what grows.
That's her point. Whether spoken aloud or just thought repeatedly, those are the seeds. And your subconscious, she argues, will then work diligently to manifest whatever those seeds represent in your actual reality.
Wow, okay, so it's like this powerful feedback loop.
Your language dictates the programming, and the programming dictates the outcome. That's the idea.
Okay, so starting at the foundation then, Shinn makes this really bold statement right off the bat. Your word is your wand.
It's not just like flowery language for her. She presents it as a kind of literal truth.
You're actively shaping your life with words, like a craftsman shapes clay. And she says every word carries this invisible energy.
That's her premise. And the critical connection she draws is between those words and our deeper thoughts or beliefs.
Okay.
She argues our habitual words are a direct reflection of what our subconscious holds as truth. So if you consistently speak statements like, well, the source gives examples like, I am healthy, wealthy, and successful.
Yeah.
Shinn asserts you are actively uh, rewiring your subconscious to
Yeah.
accept and then manifest those very conditions in your physical world.
But the flip side is just as important, right? What about the words we use without thinking?
Like,
Sighing and saying, oh, I'm just so broke. We're shaking your head thinking I'll never be successful. Shinn says that's planting seeds too.
absolutely. According to Shinn in these texts, those seemingly small negative words are powerful reinforcements
Reinforcements of what?
of any existing negative belief systems lodged deep in the subconscious. They solidify doubt, they solidify lack.
And that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's exactly her argument. It pulls you towards those undesirable outcomes. She really emphasizes the impact of this habitual speech, both internal and external.
Okay, so if our everyday language has that much power, how does she suggest we consciously direct it? This is where affirmations come in. That's the key tool she presents.
Precisely. Shinn defines affirmations very simply in the text we have. They are positive statements that affirm or declare the reality you want to create.
As if it already exists.
Exactly. As if it's already here.
And what makes them effective, according to her? Is it just saying them over and over?
Shinn explains the power comes from that consistent, focused repetition.
Okay.
By deliberately and consistently repeating these positive affirmations, you are, in her view, aligning your conscious desires with the programming of your subconscious mind.
Ah, that alignment is key.
She argues it's the crucial step. It paves the way for those desired things to manifest in your life. It's like being a conscious gardener, choosing exactly which seeds to plant in that fertile ground.
It's such a direct connection she's drawing. Okay, let's take this idea to a really tangible area. Shinn discusses our health.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a bit counterintuitive, maybe, to say words impact physical well-being. How does she bridge that gap in the source material?
Well, Shinn presents a very clear argument for a strong mind-body connection, and she links it directly to our language.
How so?
She states that our thoughts and words aren't just abstract things floating around. They are energetic forces.
Okay.
And these forces can be the underlying cause of many physical ailments. Negative words and the emotions tied to them, like sustained anger, resentment, fear.
Yeah.
According to Shinn, These can manifest physically in the body as illness or disease.
Wow. So following that logic, speaking the opposite could actually help healing.
That's precisely the argument she makes. She contrasts the impact of negative words with using healing language.
Like what?
Statements like, I am healthy or my body is healing. These are presented as powerful affirmations that can encourage the body's natural ability to restore itself.
So you're using the wand of your words to direct healing energy.
That's the concept.
And this extends beyond just physical illness to our mental state, too. Like, does Shinn say that constantly talking about our fears or anxieties just makes them worse?
Yes, she absolutely broadens this to mental well-being.
Okay.
If you continually speak about your fears and anxieties, you're affirming their presence. Shinn points out that this triggers a physical response in the body.
Stress hormones and things like that.
Potentially, yes, weakening your system.
Yeah.
Conversely, she argues that consistent positive self-talk and affirmations of courage and well-being boost emotional resilience.
And promote physical health indirectly that way.
That's the link she draws.
She includes some really compelling examples, too. I remember reading in the source about the woman who used this for a serious illness.
Yes, that story is quite illustrative of her point. The source mentions a woman who, despite a pretty severe diagnosis, committed to repeating affirmations of health.
And visualizing health, too, right?
And visualizing vibrant energy flowing through her body. Shinn explains that the key was the conscious decision to replace every thought and word of sickness with thoughts and words of health.
And the text says it worked.
The text recounts that her body responded to this change in her internal and external language by healing itself. It's presented as a direct testament to the power of the word.
That is powerful. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about something many of us are always striving for, success. How does Shinn argue our words impact our ability to achieve goals? She seems to put the starting point firmly in the mind.
She definitely does. Shinn teaches that your words are incredibly revealing, but also formative.
How so?
They reflect your underlying beliefs about your own capacity for success. And those beliefs, she argues, directly dictate your actions and the outcomes you experience.
So if you talk about failure a lot.
If you habitually speak about failure or limitations or doubt, you reinforce a subconscious belief that success is just not for you.
So just like with health, you have to change the language, both inside and out, to even create the possibility of a different result.
Exactly. By consciously choosing to speak differently, by affirming that you are capable, that you're worthy, that you're, destined for success.
Yeah.
You begin the process, according to Shinn, of manifesting that success. You're not just thinking positive thoughts, you're actively planting new seeds about your capabilities and potential.
And she gives a specific exercise for this, doesn't she? Something about making it a daily practice.
Yes, one practical exercise Shinn suggests is to make a daily affirmation that success isn't just possible, but inevitable.
Inevitable.
And that everything you touch turns to gold. Now, this isn't presented as just magical thinking,
Right.
but as a way of using language to rewire your subconscious. And in doing so, change how you approach opportunities, how you interact with people, and essentially attract the circumstances aligned with success.
Which brings us to another concept she mentions quite a bit, the law of attraction.
Yes, it's integrated right into her teaching.
How does she describe it?
The law of attraction, as described in the source, is the principle that like attracts like.
Yeah.
Shinn argues that when you consistently speak positive, successful words, you're emitting a kind of vibration
Okay.
that attracts opportunities, resources, and people who are vibrating at a similar frequency, helping you achieve your goals.
So your words are like an energetic magnet.
That's how it's framed, yes.
That's fascinating. So how does this principle apply specifically to prosperity and money? I mean, a lot of people feel a lot of anxiety around that topic.
Shinn is quite clear that the exact same principles apply to attracting wealth.
Okay.
She argues that the words you use when thinking or speaking about money have a profound effect on your ability to attract it.
So if you're always talking about how little you have.
If you constantly speak of money as scarce, difficult to earn, or maybe quickly lost, you are, in her view, solidifying a subconscious belief in lack.
You're basically using your word wand to create a reality of scarcity for yourself.
Precisely. And the opposite, she argues, is also true.
Which is,
If you choose to affirm that money flows easily to you, that you are deserving of wealth, that there's always enough,
then what happens?
your subconscious begins to work on creating opportunities for wealth to actually enter your life. You're shifting the underlying programming from a frequency of scarcity to one of abundance.
And she provides specific affirmations for prosperity in the text. I think I remember seeing some.
Oh, yes. She offers very direct phrases intended to shift this exact mindset.
Like what?
Examples include, I am a magnet for money, uh, wealth flows easily to me, and I am worthy of prosperity.
Those are pretty bold statements.
They are, but they aren't just meant as nice sayings. They're presented as deliberate tools. Tools to reprogram your core beliefs about wealth and attract it by changing your internal landscape.
And this cultivates what she calls the abundance mentality, right?
Yes. Shinn really stresses the importance of shifting your focus away from worrying about what's missing,
And instead focusing on,
cultivating the belief that there is more than enough prosperity in the universe for everyone. By focusing your words and thoughts on this idea of abundance,
yeah.
she argues you naturally attract prosperity. You move from maybe a competitive mindset focused on limited resources to one that believes in, and therefore attracts, universal plenty.
It's incredible how this one core idea seems to ripple out into every single corner of life. What about relationships? How does Shin say our words affect our connections with others? That feels so dependent on two people, but she says words shape their quality.
She does argue that.
Yeah.
According to Shinn, the quality of our relationships is profoundly shaped by the way we speak both to others and about them, even when they're not around.
Right.
She argues that negative words, things like criticism, judgment, blame, resentment, they build walls. They create distance and tension between people.
Just the language itself is making the connection harder.
Exactly. Conversely, she presents words of kindness, appreciation, love, affirmation. She sees as powerful forces for strengthening bonds and creating harmony.
So the language we use directly impacts the sort of energetic space between people.
That's her perspective.
And she also talks about how our internal words about ourselves, like self-love, are key to attracting positive relationships externally.
Oh, that's a crucial point for Shinn.
Yeah.
She argues that to attract positive, loving, supportive relationships into your life, you first have to cultivate that state within yourself.
Through self-love and acceptance.
Through self-love and acceptance, yes. And she encourages using affirmations specifically for this purpose.
Like what kind?
Things like, I am worthy of love and respect, and I attract loving, supportive people into my life.
And the goal of those is?
They're intended to build that fundamental subconscious belief in your own value, which she says is necessary to manifest healthy relationships externally. You have to feel worthy of love to attract it.
She even includes accounts of people using affirmations to heal difficult or broken relationships.
Yes, the source shares anecdotes about that. Individuals who intentionally used affirmations to try and bridge rifts.
What kind of affirmations did they use?
Examples cited involve using statements like, I forgive others, or my relationships are filled with love and understanding.
And the principle behind that.
The principle, as presented by Shinn, is that changing your internal stance and your verbal declaration towards the relationship can actually shift the energy and create space for healing and harmony to occur.
Wow. Okay, finally, she takes this whole concept of words and connects it directly to spirituality. How does she see words fitting into our spiritual lives?
Well, Shinn concludes by viewing words through a deeply spiritual lens. She suggests that our words are, in essence, prayers.
Prayers, like direct points of connection.
Direct points of connection to what she refers to as divine forces or a higher power.
So speaking positive affirmations or just expressing gratitude, that's actually a form of spiritual practice or connection for her.
Yes, according to Shinn in these texts, the very act of speaking positive affirmations, expressing gratitude, using language that acknowledges spiritual truth, it's a direct way to connect with a higher power.
And align yourself with spiritual abundance and peace.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's presented as an active, verbal form of spiritual engagement.
And can words be used for spiritual healing or growth, too, in her view?
Shinn suggests they can. By affirming states like inner peace, or recognizing oneness with the universe, or acknowledging your worthiness of divine love,
Yeah.
you can elevate your spiritual consciousness and experience. It's about using language to consciously shift your perception and your connection to the spiritual realm.
And she really emphasizes the role of faith and trust in this spiritual application of words, doesn't she? That seems important.
Absolutely paramount. Shinn stresses that having faith and trust in the power of your words is crucial.
Why is that?
By trusting that your words, spoken with intention and belief, are heard by the universe or a higher power, she argues you align yourself with the fundamental forces of creation.
Which can then bring about spiritual and material blessings.
That's the link she makes. Faith, in this context, is seen as the fuel that empowers the word.
Okay, wow. Let's try and bring all these different threads together then. based solely on the source material we've explored here.
Mhm.
What's the ultimate takeaway from Florence Scovel Shinn's "Your word is your wand"?
Well, Shinn's core teaching, as it's summarized in the conclusion of these excerpts, is really direct and powerful. It's this: your words are the primary tools you possess for consciously creating the life you desire.
Simple as that.
The key, she says, is to be mindful of your language, to speak with clear intention, and to focus consistently on positive, affirming language,
And to reshape your inner landscape.
and therefore manifest your desired external reality.
And the most essential practical things to remember from the source for someone listening who wants to explore this.
The source material really emphasizes a few key actions. First, become deeply aware of the words you habitually use, day in and day out.
Paid attention.
Yes. Then, consciously and consistently, replace negative or limiting speech with positive affirmations.
Be deliberate about it.
And third, cultivate unwavering faith and trust in the power of those words to actually affect real change. It's about conscious, intentional language use as a daily practice.
So if someone listening right now wanted to start applying these ideas from Shinn's book today, what practical steps would she suggest they take immediately, based on the text?
Shinn outlines several actionable starting points right in the text. She advises beginning immediately with using affirmations for specific desires you have.
Start affirming, okay.
Then, cultivate a clear, vivid vision of the life you truly desire to create. Really picture it.
Get specific.
And finally, make it a non-negotiable daily practice to speak words of gratitude and love for what you already have, for who you are, and for what you are in the process of creating.
Well, that was certainly a deep dive, wasn't it? Exploring Shinn's really potent ideas on how our words might fundamentally shape, well, everything.
From our physical health.
To our bank accounts, our relationships, even our sense of spiritual connection.
It definitely presents a compelling framework. It argues that the constant stream of language we use, both the stuff we say out loud and the chatter in our heads,
Yeah.
isn't just commentary. It's a direct creative force.
It really simplifies the whole process of manifestation right down to the very language coming out of our mouths and the thoughts cycling in our minds every single day.
It does.
It sounds simple, but potentially profoundly powerful if you actually apply it.
Yes, it strongly encourages a heightened awareness. Awareness about the subtle, yet maybe significant power contained within seemingly ordinary words. You've heard how the source material argues that your internal and external language is constantly at work shaping your reality.
It makes a very strong case for paying extremely close attention to your vocabulary.
Which really leaves us with this final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. If Florence Scovel Shinn is right, based on these writings, and your words truly possess this creative power, this ability to shape everything you experience, your physical state, your financial circumstances, your connections with others, what intentional adjustments might you consider making to the vocabulary of your daily life?